I'll get straight to the point here. If you came here today looking for another 9/11 truth video, as in physical, scientific evidence of a controlled demolition or thermonuclear device theories, then this is probably not what you're looking for, as I feel there are already more than enough people out there making videos on this side of the 9/11 fence, and mostly people far more qualified to explain that than I am. So what angle am I approaching 9/11 from then? Well, I'm going to be looking at this from an occult, esoteric and symbolic perspective, and from beginning to end I'm going to show you that 9/11 was something a lot bigger and altogether darker than many, including myself originally, had been led to believe. I'm going to be drawing on research conducted by many others in the symbolic field in general, and people who have presented some of the key elements that you'll see much of in this presentation, whose work I will sometimes quote from almost verbatim, along with my own research and findings, in order to tie it all together and reveal the bigger picture. I will require two things from you. One is an open mind, and the other is patience. If you can afford me those two things, then thank you in advance, and we'll get started right away. Numerology is a practice used by Freemasons and other occult fraternities, and basically involves taking a number, say 22, and adding the separate digits in that number together. So 2 and 2 would bring 4, and zeros do not count in numerology. So a 10 would give you a 1, a 20 would give you a 2, and I'm sure you get the picture. Meaning is applied to each number individually, so with this in mind, we're going to have a look at the meaning of 9/11. So when examining the numerology of 9/11, it's important to understand the meaning of the number that is skipped, 10. So here is a passage from the book Morals and Dogma, written by 33rd degree Freemason Albert Pike. The number 10, or the denary, is the measure of everything and reduces multiple numbers to unity, containing all the numerical and harmonic relations and all the properties of numbers which precede it. It concludes the abacus, or the table of Pythagoras. To the mysterious societies, this number typified the assemblage of all the wonders of the universe. They wrote it thus 6, that is to say, unity in the middle of the zero, as the centre of the circle or symbol of deity. They saw in this figure everything that should lead to reflection. The centre, the ray and the circumference represented to them God, man and the universe. This number was, among the sages, a sign of concord, love and peace. To Masons it is a sign of union and good faith, because it is expressed by joining two hands, or the master's grip, when the number of fingers gives 10. And it was represented by the terraces of Pythagoras. So, given that this passage relating to the number 10 is straight from the horse's mouth, telling you that it represents God, man and the universe, i.e. consciousness, I think it is therefore safe to assume that to jump from 9 straight to the number 11, skipping the number 10, symbolically could be said to mean skipping consciousness. So, now that we've established that, at least for the time being, let us also delve into what Pike meant by unity in the middle of the circle, or the zero. This checkered corridor appeared as a crop circle at Wheatfield, Salisbury Hill, Wiltshire, in southern England. The circle represents the spiritual realm, while the square represents the physical, and the door at the centre of the square represents a door or a stargate from the square back into the circle, and that would be unity in the middle of the circle, as Pike talked about in Morals and Dogma. This crop circle, or crop glyph if you want, conveys pretty much the same message as Da Vinci's Last Supper and the Vitruvian Man paintings. Now, the main point thus far is that the number 10 is God, or consciousness. So now we've established this numerologically, 9/11 being the skipping of consciousness, we should explore the use of this 9/11 combination, perhaps in Western civilization history and terror, and anything we can find basically in general. So here we go. Okay, so for a start, 9/11 has been since 1968 the emergency number for America. So in a time of need, the people have to symbolically skip God or consciousness, however you prefer to term it, and go to the powers that be for help. History tells us the Knights Templars were recognised at Claremont in 1118, which of course combined equals 11. There were 9 original founding Templars and they first banded together in 1111, accepting no new members for 9 years. Centuries later, on 9/11/19, the US invaded Honduras, and on 9/11, the 22nd, was the British Mandate in Palestine. On 9/11/41 was the groundbreaking ceremony for the Pentagon, in which the first slab was laid. 60 years later it became one of the terror targets, 60 years to the day. Then on 9/11/73, Salvador Allende of Chile, the world's first democratically elected Marxist president, was overthrown by the US in an admitted CIA coup engineered by Nixon, Helms and Kissinger, the same Henry Kissinger that was originally to head the 9/11 Commission investigation, or cover-up. 11 years before the 2001 attacks, President H.W. Bush gave his State of the Union address about the New World Order. The next year, on 9/11, he gave another speech regarding the New World Order.
We have before us the opportunity to forge for ourselves and for future generations a new world order, a world where the rule of law, not the law of the jungle, governs the conduct of nations. When we are successful, and we will be, we have a real chance at this new world order, an order in which a credible United Nations can use its peacekeeping role to fulfill the promise and vision of the UN's founders.
Exactly 7 years prior to 9/11, on September 11th, 1994, just after 11 p.m, Frank Eugene Calder stole a Cessna in Maryland and attempted to fly into the wall of the White House. He failed and hit the South Lawn, although he came pretty close. Also interesting is the fact that Manhattan Island was, at least allegedly, discovered on September 11th, 1609 by Henry Hudson, and at the Munich 1972 Olympics, the world's first global terror attacks, 11 Israelites killed by a group called Black September. So 11 and September there, 9/11. Now, to cover the attacks themselves, 9 add 1 is 11. It is the 254th day of the year. 2 add 5 and 4 is 11. After this day, there are 111 days left in the year. New York is the 11th state. The North and the South Tower were both 110 stories tall, which is a numerological 11. The Freemasonic Statue of Liberty stands on a 11-pointed star, and the number 11 is shaped like the Twin Towers itself, so Flight 11 hit the North Tower of the 11-shaped Twin Towers, carrying 11 crew members and 81 passengers, and 8 add 1 is 9, so 9/11. Altogether there were 92 on board, and again we have 11 because 9 and 2 is 11. Flight 11 struck between the 93rd and the 99th floors. 99 is the result of 9 times 11. Flight 175 hit the South Tower at 9:03, hitting the 77th floor and killing 65 people. 6 add 5 is 11. The South Tower collapsed 56 minutes later, again 5 and 6 giving us 11. There were 56 passengers on board, yet again 5 and 6 and giving us 11. And there were 9 crew members, so 9/11. Flight 93 held 37 passengers and 7 crew, and we've got a 377 there. There were 44 people in all on board, which is a multiple of 11. The flight crashed at 10:03:11, or 13:11 perhaps. Flight 77, which is 7 times 11 of course, hit the Pentagon, allegedly, at 9:37. and that encodes 93, and you'll see the relevance of 93 later on. But 9 and 3 and 7 gives us 19. There were 58 passengers and 6 crew, so 5 add 8 add 6 is another 19, giving us 2 19s. 1 add 9 is 10, but in numerology there are no zeros, so 2 19s becomes 11. One of the Pentagon walls collapsed at 10:10 AM, which once again is 11. On September 11th, Bush Jr. announced an 11-day national state of mourning. 11 days later, on September 22nd, he presented the Patriot Act before Congress, an unconstitutional 10,000-page anti-terror legislation supposedly written in 11 days flat. 6 months after 9/11, on the 3rd of the 11th, 02, the New York sky was illuminated by 88, 8 times 11, floodlights to remember the victims. The lights shone straight upwards, like the digit 11, forming the 2 blue pillars of light for exactly 33 days from 6:30 to 11 PM. So 6 add 3 gives us 9, and that gives us 9/11. Exactly 9/11 days after 9/11, on the 3rd of the 11th, 04, were the Madrid bombings. There were 191 deaths, which once again encodes 9/11. On this same day, the 3rd of the 11th, 04, the World Trade Center owner, Larry Silverstein, bought the 110-story Sears Tower, valued at $911 million. Then, exactly 9/11 hours after the Madrid bombings, the April 19th, 2004 Chicago Sears Tower terrorist attack was thwarted. The next terrorist bombing was July 7th, 2005, so we have 7/7, and 2 add 5 is another 7, giving us 7/7/7. This were the London subway bombing, which occurred precisely 444 days after the Sears Tower attempt. The blasts went off at 8:49 AM, which is 11 minutes to 9 on the Underground, and nearly an hour later, at 9:47 AM, another was set off on a bus at Tavistock Square. So 9, 4 add 7 gives us 11, 9/11. There were 56 deaths, 5 add 6 again is 11, 700 injured. On 11/9/05, the Amman Jordan terrorist hotel bombs killed 38, and again 3 and 8 gives us 11. On the 7th of the 11th, 06, in Mumbai, India, another terrorist train bomb killed 209, 2 and 9 is 11. It killed 209 commuters using 7 bombs spaced exactly 11 minutes apart from first to last blast. 7 and 11, 7 times 11 is 77.